My name is Fariha. I'm doing a bachelor's in nutrition from Ryerson University. I came to Canada about 10 years ago, and it's been a great journey with a lot of learning and having to redefine myself and a lot of my goals. But I'm looking forward to share with everyone how I have done it, and I hope the younger children does it better than how I did it. So when I first came, I realized that the ESL program set in place, which is something all immigrant kids of a certain age are put into, is actually very racist. The reason for that is I come from a background of English education. However, because I come from a country which is not governed in English, I was automatically put in ESL. And even though I tried to tell the teachers that all the text you're teaching in regular grade 10, grade 11 is stuff I've already read, and you can test me and then see if I fit in it or not, because I know the text well, they did not simply believe that I have read those texts. It's simply because, oh, you come from XYZ country, so there's no way you could have read it in English. But I'm like, my education all life has been in English, so how would I not read it? And the next thing is the TOEFL IELTS policy. So if you come from a certain country and you've not been in high school since grade 9, you're forced to take the TOEFL test. A lot of kids end up staying in high school like extra year just to avoid the $300 expense, because when you're new, $300 is a lot of money. But a lot of kids who grew up here going to school could be weaker in English compared to the ones who came from a certain country. But just because they have been in high school here, they're assumed to have perfect English skills, whereas someone who's showing it every day in the school in their coursework by doing a great job is still forced to take IELTS, TOEFL, whatever, like something equivalent. And a lot of times the fee and the barrier is a big barrier to students. So I would say it's more not because of how you speak or how you dress, as Srijuni mentioned, because I came here, I could speak English. Yeah, it was slightly accented, but I could speak English. But it was, oh, you come from a certain place, so you must be very nerdy because you're good in math. Or you come from a certain place, so you don't know English, so you have to take IELTS to go to school, or you have to take ESL to be in high school. You have to, end of the day, fall back to your own ethnic community for support / lever. Like I saw my other siblings making better connection and going ahead, which I did not make in the beginning because I was like not sure about there, because I saw my parents getting cheated by people who called them siblings / family, and then getting cheated by them. So I was very cautious with who I trust, right? So the trust issue is a big thing. Like I would trust maybe someone who's Indian or Pakistani more than I trust someone Bangladesh, and that's wrong because they could be doing equally good job. But I'm just, as I said, like we become conditioned, right, because of microaggression to prove we are better. That I'm very cautious not to associate myself with anyone who I will be seeing with my own ethnic group. Yeah, it was the same thing. Like not everyone has. So in our cultures, we have the idea of supporting family, right? So there's something I was studying in my nutrition class last night, that there is a individualistic approach versus a collective approach. So a lot of times young children take up jobs at 15, 14 to bring more money at home, versus someone who's young, who's here or has a different ethnicity might say, oh, I'm just making money and I'm spending all $500 at going to a trip or going to a concert, where you're thinking that $500 I could help my parents pay the next mortgage so that we don't fall behind on mortgage or on a bill, right? That's a reality for a lot of kids. Like at 20, you having to talk to real estate agents to sell a house, calling up mortgage companies pretending to be your parents to get the mortgage, calling up businesses to pretend your mom. Like I was telling my mom the other day that one day I'm going to end up in jail for identity theft, because the number of times I've called on you guys and pretended to be both my dad and mom to banks, insurance places, mortgage places, healthcare. Like I can name almost every place where my parents had to talk, and I've just called up pretending with them with all the information, because I set up the account and be like, oh yeah, this is the case. So that's a lot of stuff that you're always trying to be prove everyone that I deserve and I'm better than everyone. So I think that's a lifelong experience, as Max said, that it just stays with you and you're a semi-cloaked person showing like not sure who to share and how
Yeah.
much to open up. So you also have a lot of trust issues with people. I have been following some young ladies of color and from similar background in Instagram, and because I had to create content for one of my courses. So someone mentioned something the other night which really struck with me, which was stop underselling yourself and stop being too hard on yourself, because you're doing a lot of stuff which many people might not be able to do, but just because you are from a certain group, it's considered normal for you to do those stuff. So I think it's important that we start being a little more confident on ourselves. And I know it's a very normal for a lot of young people who are from 1.5 generation to be people pleasing, because we're scared that
Mhm.
if we lose this job,
Yeah.
who's going to pay the bill, what's going to happen, because we don't have a lot of money that we have inherited, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even the money you might have inherited back home, when you convert it, comes to literally pennies. So being confident and recognizing where your thoughts are going is a good way to make sure that you fight microaggression. Yeah, as the point you mentioned, I remember something when I was like a month or two into Canada. A
Mm-hmm.
teacher in high school made a comment that, oh, people who are from the minority community are at risk. And in that
Mm-hmm.
class, we had three people who were white, and everyone else was from different minority community. And the teacher, because he was white himself,
Mm-hmm.
he said it, and obviously the three people who were not of color felt a lot confident. But then I found that very dehumanizing. It's like, how can we be a minority when the school is mostly people of color? The classroom of 30 has 27 indigenous black people of color. How can, just because they are three white people, how can they be the majority, right? So that's something that has stayed with me all life. So when someone says, oh, you're a minority, I just make sure I look around before I say something, that but what is all this? But if someone now says about, oh, you're from Bangladesh, this, I'm like, okay, so don't wear the clothes, because everyone depends on Bangladesh's government, right? So people
Mm-hmm.
expect to be very ashamed of it.
Exactly.
You're like, okay, so don't buy the clothes, and most people can't afford not to buy them. So that I've
Yeah.
found sarcasm as a way to cope with it, but not everyone will cope with it, right? A lot of people will bottle it up. Schools, I think if we could do one thing, that is we incorporate work from different communities. Like when I was
Mm-hmm.
with you here, all the literature we read were people from color, and they were reporting on World War I history. Now, how do you connect to that, or how do you connect as a person of color? Your country might have faced it, but it's not brought up, right? It's all like how Canadian soldiers fought it, and just because you weren't here at that time, you might think, oh, it's not something that relates to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I also took a course which focused on women literature. So the course was taught by a female professor. The course had only female students, and we only looked at female writers outside of Europe, right? So whether they were white writers who were based in Caribbean, and they were white, but just because they were based in Caribbean, they're treated less white as compared to mainland Brits. Or we
Mm-hmm.
read works by people who were women of color, right? And those texts were actually a journey for me to also learn how things were going on. As I said, it's a lot of personal journey, as Srijuni mentioned, but one way we could be is we discuss more of how we have built Canada of today, including people of different communities, right? We still don't talk a lot about what the Chinese faced in BC and in Western Canada to build the rail system. We still don't talk a lot of, have just started talking about what the indigenous faced, right? We still don't talk about the racism Italians faced, the Greeks faced in the early 60s. We still
Mm-hmm.
are talking about the immigration policies which literally blocked people of color. We still don't talk a lot about how in World War II, Canada turned away people of color because they didn't want them here. A whole ship of people was sent back to die
Mhm.
just because Canada didn't want colored people in their land. So yes, Canada is doing a lot of job and are a leader in a lot of different ways, because a lot of countries can't even consider a multicultural lens in their policies. But we still have a lot of colonized history, and that we need to address. Like someone in downtown had a petition to change gender station. Now, you think of Ryerson, you think of Dundas Station, those are core downtown Toronto landmarks, right? And the petitions actually got the city to look into the naming of the streets, and they're actually now
Mhm.
looking into how to rename streets like Dundas, Jervis, because they were slave owners. People
Yeah.
have been fighting for years to get Ryerson renamed, and we probably will get it renamed because they have dropped the name Ryerson from different documents already this year as part of the BIPOC um, policy. So it's going to be different, but it's going to take time. But we have to be very persistent with it. That's what I would say. I would say that for the younger generation, that no challenge, no resource is off limit for you. Stop
Mhm.
underselling yourself. And for the older generation, I know things are tight. Money has to come in to pay the bills, but trust your kids when they make a risky decision that doesn't fit with your narrative, because the more people go to the decision making boards, the more people take paths that aren't conventional, the more people who will have better options for us in the future. Because someone tried to get immigrations or tried to break barriers is why we are here today, right? So if we break 5 barriers today, then someone will succeed tomorrow.